The new LUMIX S9 is the perfect camera for beginners. Let me show you all the key features and how to get started. So grab your camera, make notes, and if you missed any bits, just scroll back and watch it again. First, let's understand all the buttons around the camera. On the front of the camera, you'll see a lens release button which allows you to change the lens very easily. Once you press it, you'll also notice a red dot which is right there. This red dot allows you to know exactly where to place your lens before locking it into place. To the top right of the camera is the self-timer and focus assist light. The timer light will flash to let you know when it's about to take a picture in self-timer mode. On the right side, we open this flap to reveal two ports. We have the mini HDMI port for connecting to an external monitor and a USB-C port so you can charge your camera, and when charging, there's a small light indicator on top that lets you know it's charging. On the left side, there's a flap that reveals a microphone port, so if you want to connect an external microphone, this will come in handy. On the bottom of the LUMIX S9, you find the battery door. So slide this open to reveal the battery, and then there's a little white stopper here. So if you push that up, that will allow you to remove the battery and also insert it if you need to replace it. Above that is your SD card slot. So you can push it in to remove the SD card, and you can also just push it back in to lock your SD card in place. For compatible or recommended SD cards, check out the LUMIX website. If you wish to mount your camera on a tripod, on the bottom is also where you find the tripod mount. Up top is where you'll find the cold shoe mount. This is where you can attach accessories like microphone or light. To the right of the cold shoe mount is where you find your shooting mode dial. First, we have M for manual mode. Manual mode puts you totally in charge of figuring out the right exposure for each scene. You'll need to determine the shutter speed, the aperture, and ISO for each scene. S is for shutter priority. In this mode, you choose a fast or slow shutter speed and let the camera decide on which aperture settings is needed for a properly exposed photo. This will be the mode to select if you're shooting fast action like a car driving fast, and you need to be sure that your shutter speed remains quick enough to capture these moving subjects. A is aperture priority mode. This mode lets you choose your aperture settings, which helps to determine your depth of field. So basically, how blurry the background is, also known as bokeh. Aperture priority mode is a good choice when you have lots of lights to play with, the subject isn't moving too quickly, and you want to achieve a very specific depth of field in your photos. P is for program mode. This mode will select the optimum speed and aperture. However, you can change either of these settings and the camera will adjust the other ones to make sure you get the right exposure. Using program mode is an excellent way to familiarize yourself with all these exposure variables. IA is for intelligent auto mode. In this mode, the camera controls all the exposure settings like ISO, white balance, and all you have to do is point your photos at your subject, compose it, and snap away. Basically, this turns your camera into a point and shoot, and this is great to use whilst you're still understanding all the exposure triangle variables. You then have 3 custom modes for what you wish. You'll be able to make your own custom settings and apply it to C1, C2, or C3. S and Q is for slow and quick motion. Using this mode, you can record slow motion videos and quick motion videos by changing the frame rate. Lastly, you'll also notice the camera icon with M next to it. This is creative video mode. With this, when shooting video, you'll have full control of what kind of settings you will need for the movie. When you select this, you can go into settings and select your exposure mode as per PASM. Next to the exposure dial mode is your on and off switch. Then you have your exposure compensation button, and the red one is your record button. In front of the exposure compensation button is your front dial used for adjusting your aperture, and also on there is your shutter button. There's also a small blue light at the top that indicates Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connection. Make sure you check here when you're using the LUMIX Lab app. On the back, we have a few buttons as well. First, we have the LUT button for quickly selecting your custom LUT, which is almost like a filter to put it in a more familiar term. Then we have the autofocus on button, which allows you to quickly focus on your subject and also check metering. To the right side, we have the Q button for quick menu. Pressing this will bring up some quick menu options so you can quickly change exposure mode, recording format in video mode, white balance, and more. Pressing and holding the Q button also allows you to customize it, so you can allocate the menu options to what you want easy access to. The play button next to it will simply let you replay your content that you've captured already. Below the Q and play buttons, you have a control dial which allows you to change the exposure settings or scroll through the menu. On the control dial, you have 4 cursor buttons. The ISO button for changing your ISO settings, WB for white balance, and this is for adjusting your white balance settings, autofocus mode button for selecting the type of autofocus you need, and the drive mode selection button. When in manual mode, for example, the drive mode button will let you select high burst mode or even your self timer. And if you select the AF mode button, there's an extra option on screen to select the detection on or off if you want to set tracking type. Below that is your return button to go back to the previous menu, and you can also use it to delete an image or video. The display button next to it will allow you to adjust what content you see on the touchscreen. You can have your display show all the key information that you need, like your exposure settings, so you can see that at all times. Press it again, will show you less information on the screen. Press it again, you have all the extra options available, so you can change white balance and so on, or you can press it to go blank for a completely distraction-free experience. With an articulating touchscreen on the back, you can rotate or move the display to allow for different shooting angles. With the LUMIX S9, you can change lenses to suit different scenarios. For example, if you're into wildlife or sports photography, a 28 to 200mm lens might be more suitable. With this, if you want to be discreet when shooting wildlife photography, you can stand far away from the subject and still be able to zoom in and get your shot. Or if you're into those photos with beautiful bokeh or blurry background, there's a host of f1.8 lenses available just to achieve that. When shooting videos, you might experience some flicker banding. The S9 has a feature that allows you to fix this. To fix this, go into Menu, then go to Image Quality 1 menu, scroll all the way down to Synchro Scan. Select Synchro Scan, turn it on. Now you can adjust the angle in minute increments. Keep going until you get to the number that stops the flickering. So if you go all the way to around 216, you can now see that the flickering has stopped. If in M shooting mode, you'll also have the option to do flicker decrease by going to Menu, select Flicker Decrease, and then you can select which one you need until you get the result you want. I hope you find this guide helpful. Have fun out there shooting.